The Coen Brothers are some of the best directors working today. Ever since their 1984 debut Blood Simple, they've been putting out great films. They have a brilliant track record with films like Fargo, No Country for Old Men, and The Big Lebowski. They've proved that they can consistently make great films. So today what I want to do is rank their films. This way I can give a small review of each film and also rank them. So let's just get into it. The Lady Killers is their worst film by a mile. It's one of their only two bad films, the other being the next one on this list, but 16 out of 18 isn't bad. The Lady Killers is a remake of the 1955 Ealing comedy of the same name, which is much better. The problem with the remake is that it's completely pointless and serves no purpose. It takes the plot and puts it in an American setting and changes each character so they're incredibly annoying and they constantly get on your nerves. I never thought Tom Hanks could ever be annoying. All of the performances are awful, but that's mainly due to the poor writing. The film is extremely boring and there is nothing in it to hold your attention or bring you into the story. It's bland and without substance. And just a quick side note, how did Marlon Wayans end up in a Coen Brothers film? But yeah, the film is dreadful, don't watch it, 3 out of 10. I don't blame this being bad on the Coen Brothers. They only did rewrites on the script, which is where most of the problems lie. The story is dumb and unbelievable. I could forgive it if it was interesting, but it isn't. None of the characters are believable or make sense. Some are supposed to be comedic, but they come across as obnoxious and annoying. None of the actors do a very good job, although the script is to blame for some of that. I don't have a massive amount to say about this one. It's not as bad as The Lady Killers, but it's still not good. It's watchable, but why would you watch it when you could watch any of their other films? 5 out of 10. This feels very minor in the context of the Coens' filmography. It didn't have a large budget, but it wasn't too bad. $25 million. But it was a huge flop. It only made $2.8 million at the box office, and this explains why it wasn't really remembered. As for the film itself, it's quite charming. The actors do their best and there's some nice witty dialogue in it. The plot is very absurd, but it's interesting, and in the world they create, it's believable. It is predictable though and is on for far too long. You could cut out quite a lot of it and it would be much better. It does get dull and boring at points. I don't think there's really much else to be said about it, so 6 out of 10. This is their most recent film as of the date of this video being published, and it was enjoyable. My main problems with it are the problems that I just have with anthology films in general. There's always going to be stories better than others. Some are more interesting and some can get tedious. In this film's case, I can say that I didn't enjoy 2 of the stories, however the other 4 are very good and they outweigh the other 2. The opening story is hilarious and was my favourite out of all of them. It has brilliant laugh-out-loud moments and I loved the tone of it. My least favourite was the 5th story about the woman travelling to the west. It's very boring and drags on for far too long. The ending story was a perfect choice for the last story, with it being entirely dialogue-based. The film has a massive pacing issue though. It feels like it's on for 3 hours and not each story is the same length. I wish they gave the same amount of time to each story so the pacing issue wouldn't be as bad. I think the anthology format works much better in a TV format like Black Mirror and Inside Number 9. But overall, the film's not great, not bad, but good nonetheless. 7 out of 10. Hail Caesar is a funny homage to old Hollywood. It has all the characters and characteristics of old Hollywood and they work very well. It's got the musicals, the historical epics, the attractive actress, and more. I do think that I needed to spend more time with each character a bit so they could fully develop, but that doesn't stop it from being very entertaining. All of the actors do their best. The Coens make brilliantly funny scenes and they also write a great story. It's a really fun ride. 7 out of 10. The Coens wanted to make their second film as different as possible from their first, being Blood Simple, and they succeeded to a great extent. This couldn't be more different from Blood Simple. Although Blood Simple did have humour, that was dark humour, and this isn't dark humour really. Raising Arizona is a really fun film. Nicolas Cage is great in a comedic role, which I hadn't seen him do before watching this. The chase scene is masterfully filmed and is very impressive. The situations that the characters get into are outrageous but hilarious. I mean, kidnapping a baby and robbing stores to get things for him is great. I just think that I didn't really emotionally connect to the story as much as others do with this film. But I did still enjoy it. 7 out of 10. I love mafia films. So of course I was hoping that this would be good when I went into it, and I wasn't disappointed. Each character was very interesting and the development of them was brilliantly written. It was pretty fascinating to see what they would do in each situation that they were in. All of the performances are great. I love the gritty and violent nature of it. It felt very realistic. The film looks great and it has some brilliant shots. Some scenes were very intense and I really felt them. The music is great, it really suits the tone of the film. I love the hat at the beginning of the film, it really settles you in for what's about to come. 8 out of 10. This is one of their slowest films, but that isn't a bad thing at all. It takes a while to get going and I appreciate it for that. The film is a great character study of someone who can't seem to ever get what he wants. He's always failing and not succeeding in his hopes and dreams. The tone is very bleak, which suits the film perfectly as that's what it's going for. You wish the best for Lewin. He wants to be a folk singer, but his partner's killed himself and now he feels a sense of loneliness. He doesn't have a home, he's having to stay at his friend's house or someone's parents' house. He does something you could call bad to people in his life, but he never intentionally does it. He tries to fix those mistakes so no one can get hurt, but it's too late by the end. They do forgive him in the end, but most likely he'll keep on doing something wrong. The film is a great analysis of this person, and it's very interesting and engaging. 8 out of 10. This came right after No Country for Old Men, and people were kind of disappointed. But it does deserve more recognition because the film is great in a lot of ways. It's hilarious and shocking. The Coen Brothers are brilliant writers, and this is an example of that. They always come up with great ideas for scripts, and they put them onto film brilliantly. The film itself has a brilliant cast. Brad Pitt, George Clooney, Frances McDormand, John Malkovich, Tilda Swinton, and none of them are wasted. They're all used perfectly. They all give great performances. They all go against the type of character they would usually play, which is hilarious. 8 out of 10. When I watched this, I found myself having a great time. The story is really fun. An escape from a chain gang during the Great Depression is perfect for a great story. The Coen Brothers make lots of period pieces, and this was an interesting era for them to tackle. The film is really funny. All of the characters were unique and interesting, and all the actors do their best. I was always waiting to see what would happen next, and I really cared about the characters. The film is very self-aware and pokes fun at itself a little. 8 out of 10. This is a remake of an older film, but unlike The Lady Killers, this one actually works and improves upon the original in a lot of ways. The cinematography by Roger Deakins looks fabulous. Jeff Bridges is great and knew how to take on the classic character that John Wayne initially played. Even though I'd already seen the original, I still felt nervous as to what was going to happen. The ending hits hard and the emotional aspect of it really works. I just didn't like some music choices, and there's one particular instance of really bad green screen. 8 out of 10. Maybe a 9 on rewatch. Maybe. I don't really know what to say about this that hasn't already been said before. It's really funny, Jeff Bridges the dude is iconic, it's really quotable. I just don't know what else to say, I'm struggling. Do I think it's one of the best comedies ever made? Not at the moment. When I say not at the moment, I mean that I'm planning on watching it again soon, and I've heard a lot that it gets better on repeat viewings. So I'll wait until then when I can decide. 8 out of 10. Maybe a 9 on rewatch. This is super underrated. It's in the style of film noirs from the 40s and 50s, and it also has that sprinkle of the Coen Brothers style, and you get this. It's absolutely fantastic. The plot is really engaging. It has that sense of murder and deceit that we know from other Coen Brothers films, but this one stands out for its uniqueness. The black and white cinematography by Roger Deakins looks fabulous. I don't want to say too much about this because it's so good, so I'm just going to leave it at this. Go watch it if you haven't already. 9 out of 10. Maybe 10 on rewatch. When I watched this for the first time, I wasn't 100% into it, but at a certain point, about halfway through, I just thought to myself, this is amazing. It just gets really crazy at a certain point, which I just loved. There's so many metaphors for things like the picture and the whole plot, really. John Turturro is fantastic, and so is John Goodman. I think if I talk about it anymore, I'm just going to go into spoilers, which I don't want to do. Maybe I'll make a video about it one day, I don't know. 9 out of 10. Most likely it'll jump to a 10 when I watch it again. This is another one of the Coens' most meaningful films. Again, what I want to talk about in it is pretty much spoilers. I could just make a video on this one as well, so I'll probably just make a video about this in Barton Fink in the future at some point. Tell me if you want me to. I'll just say that I love this film in every way, from the opening scene to the humour to what the film really means. 10 out of 10. Their very first film is also one of their best. It's a brilliant crime thriller that has you hooked all the way through. It has some great dark humour, and the whole plot about how not everyone knows everything works perfectly. I love the end credits music, it really juxtaposes what you've just witnessed. It's obviously had influence taken from it and put into other films, so clearly it's not just me that loves this film. 10 out of 10. At one point in time, this was my favourite of theirs, but on rewatch, another one of their films has taken the top spot. It's kind of obvious what it is, but, you know. Still, Fargo is fantastic. This one doubles on the dark humour that I mentioned was in Blood Simple. It's one of the darkest of dark comedies. Frances McDormand is great as usual, and it's definitely her most iconic role. Steve Buscemi is great as the funny-looking guy. Like I said with The Big Lebowski, I don't know what else to say about it that hasn't already been said, so I'm just going to leave it at this. 10 out of 10. I watched this again recently, and God, was it brilliant. Along with the last 3 films on this list, it's one of my favourite films. Javier Bardem is terrifying as Anton Chigurh. His mysteriousness is conveyed in a fantastic way. It's one of the most intense films I've ever seen. Its lack of dialogue in certain parts adds to it. The coin scene is one of the many highlights of the film. I love its brutal nature, and also not showing you some of the brutal things and letting you, the audience member, fill those gaps in is genius. 10 out of 10. So that was my ranking of every film directed by the Coen Brothers. As of this video being published, of course. I'm thinking of making this rank thing a series, so if there's anyone specific you would like me to do, then please leave a comment. Sorry if I didn't go as in-depth on some films as you would have liked me to, but I'll try and go more in-depth in future videos. I guess I didn't go that in-depth on some films because I didn't have an awful lot to say about them. But if you do want to hear me go more in-depth on No Country for Old Men, then check out the latest episode of the podcast I'm on, the Filmcast. Please subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed. Please follow me on Letterboxd and Twitter. All I have to say really now is bye.